Alright, hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about the Gemini Cup Kyoto Tenno Show Spring 3200 meters race. This is going to be the second CM after Taurus Cup, and the reason why I'm adding this video right now is because it's actually a good time for you to start preparing for Gemini Cup. Stop thinking about Taurus Cup already, it's already over. Just go for Gemini Cup already, because if you try to improve your Taurus Cup, you might not have enough time already. You might as well just prepare for Gemini Cup because you will need to do quite a bit of preparation already. Right, before we talk about this one over here, we will first off start off with some trivia because I was not here for the Narita Bryan and Chiyo-no-O and Seeking the Pearl cards that were just released. So I'm going to talk about Narita Bryan over here. I'm going to try to talk about every single horse as they come out. Right, for Narita Bryan, this actually is a legendary horse, but this is the first legendary horse that does not actually get super buffed by side games. I think they were a bit scared to go for very crazy strong horses early on in the game's lifespan. And so what happens with Narita Bryan over here is that she's actually a legendary horse in real life, Triple Crown winner, right? And considered one of the strongest horses in the Keiba era, right? The 1999s around there, right? She's a very powerful horse, and she is very iconic because she is recognized by this little blocker on her collar over here. The real life horse, right, does run that over here. Yep, as you can see, she does run that, and this is her trademark basically. If you see that blocker, you basically know that is Narita Bryan. She also comes from the bloodline of Northern Dancer, which leads to Oguri Cap, Maruzensky, Kurofune, Chronogenesis, Nishino Flower, Grass Wonder, Nice Nature, right? All related to this lineage over here. Of course, I mean, they're all somewhat related to Native Dancer. He's a very powerful horse, right? But over here, we also see Bryan's Time, and Bryan's Time would produce Mayana Top Gun, who produces Luminox, and also Narita Bryan here. I put Luminox picture over here because I like it when the owner likes to harass Luminox with the model of the father, which is, I think, is pretty funny. All right, so that's pretty much it here for Narita Bryan's lineage, and she's basically very iconic because of that little shadow breaker in front of her nose. Right. So first off, one of her rivals is going to be Samson Big, who we are not going to talk about too much because this guy is more like the reverse Triple Crown. What happened is that he lost every single one of his Triple Crown races, and then after that he kind of faded into obscurity from what I understand. For Narita Bryan, the other Umas that she fights from Pretty Derby is going to be Hishi Amazon as well as Mayana Top Gun. These are her two horses that she fought a few times. Yeah, Mayana Top Gun will be one of her more major rivals because of the very famous Hanshin Daisho 10 back in the day. This is a G2 race, and this was a very iconic race for her. Yep. So she goes by Buchan in the game. The real horse is very timid, and so she has to wear this thing on her nose to cover her eyes, basically. She was very scared of her shadow in real life, she was scared of puddles in real life, and she was scared of people riding her in real life. And so to control her, they basically put that shadow breaker, and that helped her to run much more easily, right? So eventually she did get used to the shadow, but the team decided to leave it on for the fans. And also, once again, take note, Triple Crown just means that you are a male horse, so this is a guy horse, right? Stallion. Okay, so yeah, that's basically the backstory here for the strongest horse of the Keiba history. It was scared of his own shadow and basically had to wear this thing over here. And after he got used to it, he still kept it on, right? Because they wanted the fans to recognize Bryan easily, right? So this one is a very famous race. I actually added the link over here. I recommend, highly recommend watching this race because it is very tight, right? If you like the ones where like something like Grass Wonder versus Special Week, where literally it was 4 cm difference, then you will like this one because it's very close victory, right? Very close. 60,000 fans came to watch this one. It's nothing like Oguri's Arima Kinen, but this is, for the time, a very insane amount of fans for the time, right? The racing teams after the race were disappointed because they realized that Bryan would never ever hit her peak anymore, and the Mayana team expected to be beaten really hard by Bryan. So they really wanted to fight Bryan in her prime. Unfortunately, because she wasn't, they did not. Bryan didn't beat Mayano by 5 lengths. Yeah, so it was a very sad case here of Bryan already had too many injuries, so couldn't really go as powerful as last time. But this race is very iconic, so I highly recommend watching this one. Unfortunately, Bryan would die due to the accumulated injuries, and this actually caused her farm to go bankrupt, which is very sad ending for her story. Yeah. Alright, so to talk about the banner in particular, the Chiyono-O and the Seeking the Pearl, you can just easily skip that. 15% race bonus is Chiyono-O's gimmick, if I remember correctly. And then the Seeking the Pearl, you might as well use other things. You can use Zeno, Manhattan, or like my Top Gun SR for stamina if you really needed a SR stamina card, right? Chiyono doesn't see much use. It's a easy skip, right? Narita Bryan, this one right now is considered like above average. I wouldn't say she's like super OP or anything. Even though the horse is super OP in like the legends, she's not super OP in the actual game. She's like slightly stronger than some of the other horses here. I think Side Games was a bit scared to go for really high power creep early on because they didn't want the horse racing fans to get pissed off at the Narita Bryan being stronger than so many other horses, right? So I think they only made her slightly stronger. She has a 0.45 speed if you get blocked, so it is actually quite a good parent inheritance, and she's quite a solid horse right now, right? Just a solid horse. Later on, Blaze Bryan gets released. Unfortunately, the Blaze Bryan removes that choker, which I think is iconic and a bit of an L design, but this horse over here is very powerful for long pace chaser position. Very powerful for long pace chaser. Her rival will be something like a Long Kita-san Black. Long Kita-san Black will be fighting this horse quite a few times. A lot of the JP veterans told me that this is one of their main long horses. So this is a very strong long horse, alright? So yep, that's pretty much it for this Bryan lore over here. Feel free to look at the record over here. I think she overall earned more than Oguri Cap over here, which is quite insane, right? Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Narita Bryan lore, and for the banner review, just skip the banner. Really easy skip. But if you want Bryan, it's not a bad horse to pull. Okay, now let's talk about Gemini Cup over here. We'll be looking at Vincent's tier list, which of course, once again, I have many problems with. I always yell at him every time he releases this because I don't believe in anything that this guy says sometimes, right? But of course, we will edit it, and then after that, I'll explain my reasonings for editing it, right? We have the Gemini Cup Graded League Generalized Stats over here. First off, this is a very high stamina race. If you come to me and tell me that this is a wits-based game, you are playing the wrong game already. You are going back to team trials. Get out of CM. Alright, this is a long race, 3,200 meters. If you don't have enough stamina, just get out. You're going to die. What happens when you die? Because of your stamina loss, you lose a crap ton of speed, and so I just eat you up easily. Right, that's what's happening to a lot of players right now. I see people with 400, 500 staminas for Taurus Cup, and they're all going to die. Alright, because they don't have enough stamina to maintain their speed, so they just lose the entire game. Right? Take note that for this one, the 1000 stamina and 3 goal recoveries assumes that you want consistency. If you go for 2 goal recoveries, you have to RNG 2 activations, which is a lot more riskier than 3 goal activations. Right? This is the recovery activation percentage. You can read that in the Urzi's reference document. If you don't want to read that, then just believe me, because I am the voice of the document. Alright? Stamina, you want it as high as possible. Guts is a must-have. You must have 400-ish guts. I'm not joking. If you go and key into any stamina calculator currently available to us, you basically need to have 420 guts or higher if possible, so that you will be very safe in the last spurt. If you don't have 400 guts and you have 1200 stamina, you actually die because you don't have enough HP to tank the final spurt at all. Right, so take note, guts is actually a very important threshold to try and hit. 420 is important, right? The stamina, you try to go as high as possible, but the guts, make sure you hit this breakpoint at least, right? Wisdom is going to be 300 because we can't afford to go for any higher. Power also going to be 600. We can't afford to go for any higher. Do not sacrifice stamina or guts for any of these other stats. You must hit this breakpoint. You must try to get as much stamina as possible to improve your safety, because if you don't have enough safety, you will lose with that ace horse. But of course, if you have multiple ace horses, if you want to go for 2 goal recoveries for every single one of them, then it will actually average out, and one of them will definitely win, one of them will maybe sometimes lose, right? That's how it will average out. So I think that is also okay strategy if you want to go for it, right? Take note that the more speed you have, then the more stamina you need. 1200 speed requires you to have this amount of stamina, but if you have lower speed, then your stamina requirement actually goes lower. So take note of that as well. If you buy greens, like right-handed or spring runner, speed will go up, which means stamina must go up. So take note of all of these little things, alright? How much speed you're getting is how much stamina you must get more of in order to compensate for the speed increase. If you have lower speed, you can go less and you will be fine, alright? So which one to prioritize? It is stamina every single time. If you must sacrifice the speed for the stamina, then yes, just do that. Alright, just do that. Okay, now I wrote it over here also. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Feel free to read all the other stuff over here from Vincent, and you can support him if you want, alright? Then over here, we have the legacy tier list for Vincent. I'm moving some stuff around because Vincent really, really believes in Seiyun Sky, but when we check the actual activation of Seiyun Sky, it is not at the right timing, so it's not going to be very, very good. So we move this one down. McQueen is going to go all the way up here to S tier. By the way, I am friends with Vista, so this is just me jabbing at him, alright? I'm not actually angry at him. But Seiyun Sky, we go down over here. McQueen, we go up over here to S tier, right? It's a very, very good ultimate. And all of these, you notice they are all speed related, right? All speed related. That's because there's no accelerations that actually work very well on this CM. I crossed out Major Ryan because the acceleration does not give you a lot. It really does not give you a lot. And it's already very hard to proc. So if it's hard to proc and gives you nothing, I would not take it. But if it's hard to proc and gives you a lot of stuff, I think it's worthwhile to try because you can at least gamble the victory, right? That's why Major Ryan does not fly here because it's not good enough value. However, Daiwa remains very good as a gambling option, but inherited wise, it's going to be weaker. In fact, I recommend running Daiwa herself rather than inheriting her ultimate because it's kind of not that great. But if you inherit it and you pray for good RNG, you can still gamble with it. So it's still quite decent if you want to go and gamble, right? Take note here, you do not buy these for front runners, okay? I repeat, you do not buy Oguri, Symboli, and Teo for front runners or pace chasers because there is basically nothing to overtake. There is nothing to overtake, right? This is a very end closer dominated CM. You only buy these for the end closers because there is something to overtake. But if you are a pace chaser or front runner, there is almost nothing to overtake at all. All right. For Falcon and for Daiwa and for McQueen, these are more front-focused horses, uniques, right? This one activates if you're in the front, this one activates if you're being pressured from the back and you're in front, and McQueen is for first few positions, right? So all of these here are very, very good to take if you are going for pace chaser or front runner because there's almost not going to be any front runner. And if there is a front runner, they're likely going to die because of stamina consumption. Then the pace chaser will become the front, and then you just activate from the front. Right, so that's what we are going to be doing over here. The fronts, you get this. For the ends and the backliners, you just get this. Alright, end of story. Seiyun Sky, try not to get it. But if you are a front runner pace chaser, you can try it. Alright, I'm telling you, it's not going to be strong enough to win you most games. The only one that is strong enough is probably going to be Daiwa and Falcon, in my opinion. Alright, that's pretty much it. Okay, so Uma tier list. The strongest horse for Gemini Cup, if you have watched some videos already, is Narita Taishin, obviously. Because Encroaching Shadow is the strongest acceleration in the entire game for this track. Because there is a straight line at the acceleration phase of this track. So this one is a very, very powerful horse. That's why all enclosers are very good because they can also inherit this skill and only enclosers can use this skill. That's why encloser is the meta. Alright, that's why Go Ship, Mayano Top Gun, Mayano Wedding, or Oguri, as long as you can force them into encloser, Symboli, just force them into encloser, you will be able to get straight away spurt, and that is already a strong acceleration that no one else is able to have. So this is an encloser dominated CM. You will not see many front runners, but you may see some pace chasers like Daiwa Scarlet or McQueen, who are very, very solid options if you are going to run her in that position. Alright, so this is a very, very strong horse, and you would actually don't mind using her as a parent to pass down the straightaway spurt to your other enclosers also. It's not that bad. So Taishin is a very, very insane horse for this Gemini Cup, and she will be insane for any track with a straight line at the acceleration phase. Right, then we have Ghost Ship, Mayano Top Gun over here. Mayano Top Gun, I cancelled out the gambling, right? Because in this CM, due to the fact that it's going to be very, very encloser dominated, you can actually buy Nimble Navigator on every single one of your enclosers. If any of them trigger the Nimble Navigator at the correct timing, you can basically RNG a win off of that. There's going to be so many people jammed up in the encloser position that the odds of you actually hitting Nimble Navigator, I think it's not going to be too hard to try and hit it, right? So that's why I think that this is going to be a very, very solid strat for a lot of us. Just go for Nimble Navigator in the encloser position, get straightaway spurt, and get Encroaching Shadow. Straightaway spurt is the new groundwork for the enclosers. Alright. After that, Daiwa Scarlet, you just go for pace chaser position. Don't need to go any higher because you want to get access to your race planner recovery, and then you will most likely be the front anyway as a pace chaser. There's not really going to be any other front runners, and eventually you'll be able to overtake them anyway, so you should be fine as a Daiwa. Right? After that, we have Haru Urara. Why is Haru Urara here? I actually am not crossing her out this time because Haru Urara is actually a legitimate option here to actually debuff everyone in the encloser position and to buff everyone's stats. What does Urara do? She kills Taishin's recovery. recovery. So if you scroll down over here, you can see Taishin's recovery is called the Sleeping Lion. This one dies to Haru Urara because Haru Urara makes the activation almost impossible, right? As long as you have Haru Urara and she loses the entire game, like she goes all the way to the back line, what happens now is that the distance between the front horse and the back horse is now so big that Sleeping Lion cannot activate anymore. So Haru Urara is basically a counter to Narita Taishin, but if the Narita Taishin knows about this counter attack, he could buy other recoveries to kind of offset this debuff from Haru Urara. Another thing that Haru Urara is very good at is that if there's no other front runners, what happens is that Haru Urara actually slows down the entire lobby, and when it slows down the entire lobby, everyone actually gains stamina. So that is very, very good. And you might be saying, between Haru Urara nuking the Sleeping Lion recovery and making her also gain stamina, isn't that just 1-for-1? Well, actually, you're denying one recovery activation from Narita Taishin. The rest of your other horses can activate 2, but Taishin can only activate 1. But these 2 horses that can activate 2 recoveries also can get more stamina, right? Because they have 2 recoveries and they still have their stamina remaining due to the Haru Urara buff from lowering down the pace of the entire lobby, right? So Haru Urara is going to be a buffer and a debuffer specifically for Taishin. So if you want to kill Taishins, you bring your Haru Urara debuffer, you buy enclosure debuffs on her as much as possible. This is the sandbag Haru Urara strategy, and it's actually quite viable on this track due to the fact that everyone wants to be in the pace chaser position most likely, or the enclosure position most likely, right? Then if your horse can go into enclosure position, you can bump them up. If your horse has an innate recovery, you can bump them up. If you are a budget player, you have no other horses, you can use, once again, Super Krieg and Agnes Tachyon because stamina. If you can pass the stamina checks, you will be a viable horse for winning this one. Get them some long S's and then just give them a bunch of recoveries and 600 wits and you'll be fine, right, for the long CM. This is a very, very solid option if you just want to compete a little bit and then try your best to win against the dupes, right? So that's pretty much it. Mayano, both of them are really, really good because Swinging Maestro and Breath of Fresh Air. Take note that even though Breath of Fresh Air and Cooldown and all these other straight line recoveries I mentioned are quite bad in the previous CM, this CM has more straights, and the straights are more in the middle, which means that you can actually activate these at a higher chance, and you still need a lot of recoveries. So since there's no other recoveries, honestly, you're probably going to be sniping these 2 anyway, right? If you don't get these, you're going to die. Right, so just RNG the activation here is all going to be RNG activation. So the whale can still lose if they don't activate this thing at the right timing. Alright, so that's pretty much the logic here for cooldown and Breath of Fresh Air. Alright, that's pretty much it for this tier list over here. We're not going to talk about anything over here because Vincent doesn't really check these either, and I don't really like to check that either. But basically, if your horse has a recovery somewhere in their kit that works on this track, can sometimes give you some recovery value, then you might as well RNG it because this track is very, very stamina heavy, and as long as the other guy doesn't activate their recovery, you have a chance to go and win this CM. Alright, that's pretty much it for this tier list over here. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment down below and I'll try my best to answer. Over here we have the skills. Because my chat has feedback to me that actually it's very, very hard to tell who buys what, which I think is ridiculous because straightaway spurt is straight up an end closer skill. I've written down, don't buy straightaway spurt for front runner, pace chaser, and late surger. Please don't buy this. It's for end closers only. For Nimble Navigator, you only buy it on the late surger and encloser due to the fact there will be almost no front runners at all. So there's no reason to buy Nimble Navigator on paces and fronts. You only buy them on lates and enclosers because sometimes you can get blocked for these positions over here. Late surger is probably a bit weaker, so I would not actually buy it on late surgers. But if you want to, you can try because you can RNG it. But encloser, you definitely buy Nimble, you definitely buy straightaway spurt. You also try to buy Uma's stand because there's going to be a lot of you in the back line. I think you can actually activate some of these skills here because all those skills require a lot of people to be near you, right, or get blocked. In which case, since you're in the encloser position, you are very likely to get blocked. You're very likely to have a lot of people around you. So that's why I think that this is going to be something that is better. It's better than the previous CM for sure, right? So, okay. That is pretty much it. I also wrote over here, please do not buy any position or vision skills ever, even for debuffs. But if you have nothing else to buy, then you can feel free to go and buy it. Oguri Cap, I know I glaze her very, very hard here, but actually she's more A tier because you just force her into the encloser position, and then after that you just give her straight away spurt, and then you go and find 2 recoveries, slap it on her, and now she is a viable option. Alright, that's pretty much my game plan for my Oguri Cap. I will always trade Oguri Cap no matter what the CM is. Alright, next we have the 2 Ace plus 1 debuffer Haru Urara. This is going going to be the nice middle ground for a lot of you, because Harurara is a very easy horse to make. All you need to do is make her loose. So just put her in front runner position, give her a bunch of wits, you try and hit all of the debuffs onto the encloser, and then you're pretty much done already. If you want extra debuffs, go and put it on the Pace Chaser, cancel out Lone Wolves, cancel out Mavericks, whatever the hell you want really. Harurara can just do whatever the hell she wants, because she just needs to slow down the entire lobby by losing the entire game. 2 aces, you just go for long S as the highest priority, and go for straightaway spurts. If they're enclosers, if they're Pace Chasers, go for as much Excel or Pace Chaser corners, all those other good stuff like your recoveries like Gorman and whatnot, in order to make sure that they live at a higher rate than the other horses. Right? Budget options, Agnes Tachyon, Super Creek, Ghost Ship are very good options. Miranda Top Gun is also a very good budget option as well. Long S, ton of recoveries, high stamina, straightaway spurt, and make sure if you're using Agnes and Super Creek for a lot of recoveries, you just need to have good wits. So aim for 600 wits and you should be fine. After that, 3 groundwork runners, I highly do not recommend this one. It is very hard. You need to hit long S and groundwork inherit, and you also need to have 2 of these, and then you need to make sure you have enough stamina, because if they run out of stamina due to them fighting each other all the time, they will die, and then you just have no chance to win the game anymore. It's very hard to hit the stamina requirements for this CM. If you see a whale do it, you should not try to copy the whale, because the whale has better cards than you. Alright. Next, we have the double debuffer plus ace. This is good for the casuals, people who already experienced Taurus Cup and they're like, holy shit, this cup is insane, right? Then yeah, if you want to not maybe fight because you have not enough good SR cards, not enough good SSR cards, then what you do is you just use double debuffer plus ace and you're pretty much done for the entire CM, because double debuffer plus ace is not good because the ace, if anything bad happens to the ace, you lose the game immediately. But double debuffer plus ace means that if nothing happens to your ace, you still have a chance to win, and it's very lazy because debuffers are very easy to make. You don't need to aim for long S, don't need to aim for straightaway spurt. The ace, you just focus on those things and you're able to make the ace really strong. Then you just make the debuffers pretty decent and you're basically done with the CM already. Right, so this is the good one for the casual players. Just make the debuffers and then make the ace. Focus on the ace first. After that, you can just make the debuffers as strong or as weak as you want. You can do Harurara plus nice nature if you care for debuffing other people. Right. Next, we have the go-to advice. Make sure you make aces that beat the weaker players, but you don't necessarily have to win the stronger players. If you try to aim to win stronger players, you're going to have a bad time, because most of them are whales or Luxacs or both. Right. And my strategy over here, I put it as Ghost Ship N, Oguri N, and Narita Taishi N close. I'm going for the triple A strategy. I'm praying that someone brings a Harurara into my lobby, and I'll have 3 aces to try and get me a victory, as long as the other guy does not activate his skills, right? All of the parent decks are over here. The explanations is just look at the skills of each of the cards, and then you can understand why. The red text here is because we changed it in the middle of the stream yesterday, in Saturday, right? And so we found that actually there's a bunch of other better cards like R McQueen and SR Fukuwitz to give us additional resources like right-handed, as well as Kyoto, Racecourse, and Spring Runner, which are very solid options. Pace Chaser, I put it over here. Narita Taishin is optional. Just choose your best speed cards and throw it in there if you have a better speed card. And if you want Stamina Eater, feel free to go and inherit it through Manhattan Cafe, or you can even bring Manhattan Cafe for your actual ace horse. And what happens is that you just go and snipe out that Stamina Eater, and that will give you an additional debuff of 1%. And if all of your horses have 1% and they're all backliners, you can actually nuke the people in front of you stamina by 3%, and that could actually affect them from winning the game, right? Grandparent guidelines are these. You just hunt down for these skills over here. Parent guidelines are these. Aim for straightaway spurt, and then anything with speed plus relevant greens like your slipstream playtime, your spring runner, your right-hander, your Kyoto racecourse and whatnot. Just try and aim for all of those. And then these are my planned horses already. I crossed these ones out because I have to edit this one, because I'm changing from Pace Chaser Oguri into Encloser Oguri cap. So we'll be aiming for Tokai Teiyo and Symboli Rudolph once again for the Oguri cap over here. And for enclosers, we're going to be aiming for the B rating for the enclosers, so that we'll be able to try and at least like not lose that much weight, because B encloser only affects the weight, doesn't affect the speed, so it's still okay, right? So we'll just try and get there as much as possible, but we mainly aim for the long S. The long S is very high priority. Alright, that's pretty much it here for this entire guide. If you have any other questions, feel free to use all of the channels that I've put over here, like my YouTube channel comments, my Twitch channel when I'm streaming on Saturdays or whenever I'm free, and then the link to the Ko-fi is over here. If you need to have very specific questions, or you want me to craft a build for you, I can do that. Just pay me a bunch of money and then I'll do it for you. Alright, that's pretty much it for this entire video here. Hopefully this has helped you, and remember to start preparing now, right? Don't need to try and salvage your Taurus Cup. Just prepare for the next Gemini Cup. If Gemini Cup is not your thing, aim for the next cup after that, which is the Cancer Cup. Alright, just aim for whatever CMs that you find that you enjoy and don't burn out. Alright, it's not worth it. The gems are not that big. Alright, it's not that big. It's like what? 3,000 gems is like what? 20 pulls. You might as well go and work a job and then come back, and then you basically will be able to buy that 20 pulls. Alright, do not burn out of the game just because one cup gets defeated by a bunch of whales. Eventually what happens is that you will fight a bunch of noobs, and then what happens is that you beat them because you're over here, and then you just eat them up. As long as you never encounter these guys over here or these guys over here, you're pretty much good to go already. Right, that's pretty much it for the advice here. Remember, don't burn out, and if you really want to, just use the double debuffer plus ace and you're done with the entire CM. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's all my advice. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you guys next week because I have to go back to all military training. Alright, that's all. Bye bye.